one of the reasons so many artists are not going to be quote unquote starving is because of a secondary market. And
very true.
What is remarkable, I mean, literally, I don't know if you can see this, they're starting to form, getting a couple little goosebumps here. Yeah. You know, nice. The fact that the artist can continue to get royalties.
It's a revolution.
It's a revolution, Roger. I mean, like, my God, you know, I could super understand the artists of the past who would be super sad. They would make a painting, the gallery they had a deal on would pay them a certain amount, and they wake up 11 years later and the thing's selling for $11 million and they got 8,000.
Yep. I
mean, my God.
You know, and now no matter how many OpenSea transactions there are and beyond, it's always that 10-ish% that's going back to the creator.
I can't get over it. Yep. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, to me, this is the greatest thing. So yeah, anyway, to origin story, like that was who I was as an entrepreneur. I did really well, invested in a lot of companies, built a large marketing company, have built a big content platform. This is the scariest of them all. I'm asking myself questions of like, oh, is this it? Like, is this going to be the one? Was this all built? You know, for example, I know you pay attention to everything. You go, my team is finding all these videos of me doodling. I've never shared that part of me because I've never wanted to. You know,
okay, I can't. You know, I'm going to poke around at that. Like GaryVee is where it's at. It just is.
I can't believe that something that a lot of I posted 4 or 5 of my doodles, and I can't believe it. Like, I've always thought of myself far more creative than I've ever showed the world. It's actually similar to when I was the wine guy and then I started talking about business, and a lot of people were like, stay in your lane, wine boy, don't talk about business. And I was like, my God, I've always been a businessman. It's going to be an artistic revolution. Now, I think a lot of people are going to misstep it because there's going to be so much conversation around finances. When people start seeing blah or people, or, you know, like, they're going to see things that are going to confuse people. And this is just for the community that's listening. This is what always happens. There's an art renaissance, and then comes commerce. And it gets a little blurry for a little bit. And just staying true to who you are during this time is imperative, because I do think it's going to be a little bumpy here for 24 to 36 months as it settles. Similar to ICOs, I think, Raj. You know, if you go back 4 years ago, you had that kind of spike, and then you had all these coins, right? And it took market a little bit to level out kind of to where we are now. I don't think it will take 4 years, because I think we've learned from that. At least some people.
And things are so compressed these days that may be a 1 year shakeout period.
I think that's right. And I think that it's important to not get overly emotional about convincing. I think that's where a lot of people are going to get caught, the OGs trying to convince.
Yes.
I think I say, don't convince, have conviction. You know, everyone's like, oh, this is great. I, now the artist, don't have to rely on an agent or the gallery. What the artist has to understand when they take on that responsibility is just making the art is it's the variable, but it's only one of them. I remind people that art is in the eye of the beholder. There's a subjectiveness that is incredible around this. And actually cultivating a community of people that care about you, like, matters. And there's a million ways to do it. You know, Banksy does it different than I do. The reason people care about me is I engage.
That's right.
You know, like, for real, like, you know, and so I think that will be interesting. Who's going to actually truly care about their early supporters? You know, I've watched a lot of artists talk about like being OG, and then even in 3 weeks have watched them be less about their original community than the new fancy people that are talking to them.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, that's just real talk. So like, they were razzing, and then 3 weeks later, they're doing the behavior of what they were razzing because now they have the opportunity too.
Yeah, I think that's the pitfall right there. You get too caught up in the mania, you know, that base, that strong foundation may not be there for you when the mania dies down.
And I think the other thing, back to the, you know, be nice on the way up because people catch you on the way down. I think the other thing people have to be empathetic to is supply and demand. Just because you're first doesn't mean you're best. Just because you're first doesn't mean you made something that captures people's imagination. And so, you know, just realizing that this is going to be a floodgate. You know, one of the great things of the old world was limited people got into galleries. One of the terrible things of the old world is that limited people got into the galleries.
Good.
You know, I look at this like influencer marketing, actually. You know, everybody can now be an influencer. And I think everybody now will have an opportunity to play out some of their ambitions in art. You know, the art world said Jackson Pollock was not art until they did.
Mm-hmm.
This always happens. This is history. So what people have to be prepared for is actual supply and demand. There's going to be more supply over the next 6 months in NFT projects than anybody on this call listening or watching, me and you included, can comprehend.
100% agree.
Literally everybody. And most of it, 98% of it, is going to be short-term transactions,
Mm-hmm.
which creates a very interesting and scary bubble scenario.
Shout out New View Investor. Gary, how do you evaluate an NFT? What is your criteria?
The underlining information,
Mm-hmm.
supply and demand,
Mm-hmm.
who's behind it, what do I know about them? Do I think they're a good, I think of it as jockeys and horses. You know, the underlining data, the subjectiveness and my ability on the creative part, that's the horse. The jockey is, who's the human behind this? Do they understand how to cultivate a community in perpetuity, or are they just trying to do something for a quick win?
Right.
So those are the two big criterias.
Shout out New View Investor. Gary, how do you evaluate an NFT? What is your criteria?
The underlining information,
Mm-hmm.
supply and demand,
Mm-hmm.
who's behind it, what do I know about them? Do I think they're a good, I think of it as jockeys and horses. You know, the underlining data, the subjectiveness and my ability on the creative part, that's the horse. The jockey is, who's the human behind this? Do they understand how to cultivate a community in perpetuity, or are they just trying to do something for a quick win?
Right.
So those are the two big criterias.
Shout out to Wheel. NFTs with a physical counterpart. Does a physical devalue the NFT, or does it not matter?
My intuition is that it enhances.
Mm-hmm.
I think it broadens people's intrigue. I think it's another data point to make it interesting. I don't know where the community sits on this, if they think that eliminates its purity. I could see a path to that. I also don't think anybody gets to make the rules. And I think that people that just want to do the NFT are right for them and themselves. And I think the people that want to do the physical counterpart are right for them and themselves.
Yeah, I think that one of the bigger issues right now in this space is the physical custody. No one knows how that's going to play out, right? Once that NFT with the physical counterpart is sold, the physical is distributed, and then that NFT is reposted on a secondary sales site. Do you get the physical? Do you not? What condition is it in? Did someone open? I think that's one of the bigger issues. I imagine someone's going to step in and take care of that.
It's funny. For me, my intuition is that they should be separated immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That the NFT, that's what's amazing about the blockchain and the ledger. It's like so incredible.
It is.
And I think let the real world do its real world thing. You're not going to ever be able to attach it. You've already created a vulnerability if you think you're going to attach it because of condition, provenance, like what really happened.
Right.
I think it's a nice to have. It's an added value. It isn't the thing.
Right.
Is how my stomach thinks of it.
Yeah, I think it's either that, and that's probably most cases, and then I imagine there's a service that comes out that does take custody and
mercantile it, and it just sits somewhere.
Exactly. Shout out Joel Miyazawa. What is your biggest pain point with NFTs?
You know what's so funny? My brain went here right away. It's my knowledge that it's going to get mucky here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know how this plays out.
I know how this plays out. And I remember the hurt feelings of people I loved in Web 2.0 when it started crossing the chasm of being commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
And the purity of we're going to change the world mixing with monies. And this one is much more transactional than that was.
Yes.
My biggest difficulty is knowing that there's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of money lost, a lot of short-term thinking, a lot of bad characters, a lot of people becoming miffed of the overall space because they'll see somebody that they grew up with turn into, in their mind, somebody who's selling out, even though that person is just trying to do something, you know, that's good for their family. There's going to be emotions, and I know that. And so because I know that, it's like, ugh, this is why I think I'm speaking the way I am to everybody, which is like, hey, be prepared. It's okay. It's okay. Like, let go of convincing, lean into conviction, do it your way, because you'll win in the end. You will win in the end. You build a meaningful project that has real community. You might get outsold by somebody who's a better self-promoter, but let's talk about what it looks like in 9 years. And that's what I always play for.
That's the biggest deal, is ignoring the person who's outselling you now.
Correct.
Because it's so easzy to look at that. It's just
and having the humility to not impose your way of seeing this on everybody.
Yes.
People, you know, it's like, it's important because it's what happens to people that fall in love with a band that gets big. They start hating them.
That's right.
But you didn't get to control, you know, you don't get to control what the band's doing. You get to control how you enjoy it. You're in charge of that.
That's right. I knew about them first, right? It's that whole thing.
Which is going to happen a lot right now.